You probably know Isaac Newton as the man who discovered gravity, but he was so much more than that. He was an obsessive genius who revolutionized science and mathematics. He was a politician serving in Parliament. He was the master of the mint, in charge of reforming Britain's currency. He was the head of the Royal Society, helping to push the boundaries of science. And he did all of this over 300 years ago. Without Isaac Newton, our world would be a very different place. His work on the laws of motion are fundamental to engineering and are still used today when designing vehicles, machinery, bridges, and buildings. Newton's law of universal gravitation is crucial for helping us understand the universe and is used in space exploration, satellites, and GPS. His contributions to optics and light helped develop cameras, microscopes, and telescopes. And Isaac Newton's work on calculus is essential for solving modern problems in physics, engineering, and economics. Newton's discoveries are not just historical milestones, but play an integral role in our modern lives. His genius also came with a dark side. He lived a life of obsession, rage, and jealousy, entering into furious, lifelong feuds with rival scientists. He was a religious fanatic and was infatuated with alchemy and the occult, and desperately searched for the philosopher's stone. He had several major breakdowns throughout his life, caused by his intense work and vicious feuds. In this video, we take a look at the legendary life of Isaac Newton, exploring his upbringing, his transformative discoveries and theories, delving into his unique personality, and ultimately asking the question, how did Isaac Newton change the world? Isaac Newton was born on Christmas Day, 1642, in Woolsthorpe, Lincolnshire, England. He was a tiny, premature baby who was not expected to survive the day. His father died 3 months before he was born, leaving his wife to raise little Isaac Newton on her own. After 3 years, his mother remarried a man from a nearby village. She moved in with her new husband, but left Isaac Newton behind with his grandmother. This left him feeling abandoned and rejected. He resented his stepfather for taking his mother away. Several years later, when Newton was still a young boy, he threatened to burn down his stepfather's house. Isaac Newton first attended Grantham School, and it was there his first glimmers of genius began to shine through. Newton's passion lay not in poetry or literature, but in technology and mechanics. He was utterly captivated, going on to invent his own intricate sundial, which was accurate to the minute. The headmaster of his school and his uncle both saw Newton's potential and pushed him towards a more intellectual life, much to the displeasure of his mother, who wanted him to run the family farm. Had his headmaster and uncle not spotted Isaac Newton's potential, he may never have gone on to change the world. He then moved to study at Trinity College, Cambridge University, where he found a mentor in Isaac Barrow, who was the university's first professor of mathematics. Recognizing Newton's extraordinary talent and potential, Barrow encouraged Newton to tackle significant, unsolved problems, including the development of calculus. During his time at Trinity, Newton delved into the works of several philosophers and academics, studying Aristotle, Plato, Gassendi, and Descartes. He was particularly captivated by Descartes' concept of the universe being governed by mechanical laws. We can see how this idea profoundly influenced Newton's future work. Newton's dedication to truth and knowledge was evident in his writing. In 1664, he penned certain philosophical questions, where he famously noted, "Plato is my friend, Aristotle is my friend, but my best friend is truth." This offers an illuminating insight into Isaac Newton's mind and his pursuit of knowledge and the truth. In 1665, Isaac Newton received his bachelor's degree from Cambridge University. But in that same year, an outbreak of the plague struck the country, forcing Cambridge to close. Newton retreated from this deadly disease back to his family home in Lincolnshire. It's estimated 100,000 people died from the plague during this period. But for the 24-year-old Isaac Newton, these isolated years were some of his most productive. Newton embraced a new approach to learning during this time. He believed that true knowledge came from direct observation and experimentation, not just from reading established texts. In his quest for understanding, he once inserted a bodkin, a thick, blunt needle, into his eye socket to explore the effects it would have on his vision. During these 18 months of isolation, he laid the early foundations for his work on calculus and the laws of motion, concepts and ideas that would later form the cornerstone of his revolutionary work. Newton was a very private, jealous, and suspicious man. Many of the discoveries and theories he worked on during this time he kept completely to himself. A strange thing to do for someone so determined to uncover the truth. In 1667, after the reopening of Cambridge, Isaac Newton returned and was soon elected to a prestigious fellowship at Trinity College. The following year, 1668, marked two significant achievements for Isaac Newton. First, he designed and built a reflecting telescope. While not a brand new invention, Newton's version was revolutionary. It was more compact, using mirrors instead of lenses, making it smaller yet more powerful than its predecessors. That same year, he achieved another milestone by becoming a Professor of Mathematics at Trinity College. Newton's work in mathematics continued to flourish. In 1669, he wrote on analysis by equations with an infinite number of terms. He refined this work into On the Methods of Series and Fluxions. Here, he introduced the concept of fluxions, known today as derivatives, marking a crucial development in the field of calculus. Around the same time, Newton began lecturing on optics, sharing his extensive research and insights in this area. One of Newton's most significant contributions to optics was his discovery that white light is composed of different colours. In 1671, Isaac Newton introduced his telescope design to the Royal Society, who were an assembly of distinguished scientists dedicated to advancing scientific knowledge for humanity's benefit. Impressed by his innovation, they encouraged him to share more of his work, particularly in the fields of optics, light, and colour. However, in 1672, when Newton submitted a paper on light and colour, the response was unexpectedly mixed. Some members struggled to replicate his experiments, citing the complexity and confusion in his methods. This criticism, particularly from Robert Hooke, a respected figure in the Royal Society known for his discovery of microorganisms, was not well received by Newton. Known for his fiery temper and insecurity, Isaac Newton found Hooke's critique especially distressing. This marked the beginning of a bitter and long-lasting rivalry between the two scientists that would last their entire lives. Unable to cope with the criticism, Newton retreated from public life, entering a long period of isolation. This reaction highlights the type of person Isaac Newton was, a man of exceptional intelligence, but also someone who was emotionally and socially fragile. He was so invested and engrossed in his own work that he struggled to handle any criticism. Newton's self-imposed exile lasted for many years. During this time, he became obsessed with radical religious ideas. He was a devout Christian, but privately he questioned the doctrine of the Holy Trinity. He also had a deep interest in biblical prophecies, believing the Bible contained hidden knowledge that needed to be decoded. Newton also began exploring alchemy. While alchemy, the ancient precursor to modern chemistry, might seem more akin to magic than science, it fascinated him. Alchemists sought to transform base metals like lead or tin into gold or silver. They were also intrigued by the elusive philosopher's stone, which was believed to cure disease and grant eternal life. Today, we think of Isaac Newton as one of the greatest scientists to ever live. Here he is, dabbling in alchemy, a peculiar thing to do. So, what might explain this behaviour? In 1679, his mother fell seriously ill. Newton returned to their family home in Lincolnshire to be with her in her final days. It's speculated that her death could have intensified Newton's interest in alchemy, sending him on an alchemical quest to discover a universal cure for disease. Though alchemy is not considered a legitimate science today, many argue that it played a crucial role in shaping some of Newton's revolutionary ideas. It encouraged him to think outside the box, challenging the established norms of his time. In 1684, German polymath Gottfried Leibniz published a groundbreaking paper on calculus and its application in representing the physical world. This publication sparked anger in Isaac Newton. He claimed he had formulated similar ideas 2 decades earlier, but there was a slight problem. Isaac Newton hadn't actually published his work on calculus yet. Newton hurriedly compiled his old notes, striving to prove his prior discovery of calculus. At that time, this led to a huge controversy in the scientific community, fueling a fierce rivalry between Newton and Leibniz. Today, it is recognized that both Newton and Leibniz independently developed the fundamental principles of calculus, each through their own unique approach. But back then, this issue was a point of major contention, with both claiming to have discovered it. In 1687, after 2 years of intense work, Isaac Newton published the Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, commonly known as Principia. This revolutionary book introduced Newton's theory of calculus, his 3 laws of motion, and his theory of gravity, laying the foundations of our understanding of the universe. He explained how objects move and interact through his 3 laws of motion. These principles are fundamental to classical mechanics and are still used today. One of the most groundbreaking parts of Principia is his law of universal gravitation. This law suggests that every object in the universe attracts every other object, with the strength of attraction depending on their mass and the distance between them. This concept applies to everything from apples to planets. Newton's work also brought together the movements of celestial bodies, like stars and planets and everyday objects, under one unified set of physical laws. This unification showed that the same laws apply both on Earth and in the cosmos. Notably, Principia also marked a significant shift in scientific methodology. By using mathematics to describe natural phenomena, Newton's equations and mathematical approach laid the groundwork for the quantitative techniques that are central to modern science. Decades of Isaac Newton's theories culminated in Principia. boosting his stature as one of Britain's most eminent scientists. This text not only elevated Newton's reputation, but also transformed science and human civilization. It's hard to overstate just how important and groundbreaking Isaac Newton's Principia was. His ideas changed the world. The discoveries he made here still impact our lives today, forming the backbone of modern science, mathematics, and technology. In 1689, Isaac Newton, who was a devout Anglican Christian, stepped into politics and public life. He was driven by his opposition to King James II's attempts to reintroduce Catholicism in England, a move Newton strongly disagreed with. Representing the University of Cambridge, Isaac Newton was elected as a Member of Parliament. However, his political career was notably quiet. His only recorded action during his entire period in Parliament was a request to close a window during a debate. This leads us to wonder, why did Newton seek a parliamentary position if he wasn't going to actively participate? Was it for the prestige and benefits that came with being an MP? Or perhaps his curiosity about politics led him there, only to find that it didn't suit his interests or talents? This adds another piece to the complex puzzle that was Isaac Newton. Newton's life then entered a tumultuous phase marked by emotional instability. His relentless focus on work often came at the expense of his health, and in 1693 this culminated in a significant breakdown. Newton became erratic, paranoid and irrational, and he lashed out at those around him, including philosopher John Locke, with accusatory letters suggesting a conspiracy against him. Later realizing his irrational behavior after this episode, Newton sent heartfelt apologies to those he had wrongly accused, expressing sincere remorse for his actions. Remarkably, despite this alarming outburst, his public reputation remained largely unscathed. Historians have long debated the reasons behind Newton's breakdown. Some attribute it to the immense pressure and intensity of his scientific endeavours, whilst others point to potential mercury poisoning from his alchemical experiments. In the 17th century, Britain faced a financial crisis. The metal in many coins was worth more than the coins themselves, leading to widespread illegal coin clipping and forgery. In response, Charles Montague, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, sought reform. And in 1696, Isaac Newton was appointed as Warden of the Royal Mint. Moving from Cambridge to London, he embarked on a mission to stabilise Britain's currency. He managed a massive recall and replacement of the old, debased coins with a new, more reliable series. This effort involved minting millions of new coins, a crucial step in restoring trust in the British currency. He also aggressively tackled counterfeiting. Newton compiled a detailed database of counterfeiters and pursued them relentlessly, surprising many with his vigorous enforcement. As a reward, in the year 1700, Isaac Newton was promoted to Master of the Mint, a role he held until his death. While his scientific achievements are well known, Newton's time at the Royal Mint was significant. His meticulous approach and strong sense of duty played a crucial role in stabilising the British currency during a critical period in history. In 1703, Isaac Newton achieved another milestone by being elected President of the Royal Society, one of the most esteemed positions in the scientific community. At this point, Newton, already a celebrated scientist, began focusing on solidifying his legacy. His tenure as president was marked by a quest for power and influence, as he actively tried to shape the scientific landscape to favour his work, while downplaying others' achievements. a notable conflict arose with astronomer John Flamsteed, who had created a detailed star catalogue. Newton, eager to use this data, clashed with Flamsteed over its publication. When Flamsteed hesitated to publish, Newton used his new position to acquire and publish the catalogue without Flamsteed's consent, igniting a fierce dispute between the two men. This episode sheds light on the complex nature of Isaac Newton. While his contributions to science were immense, he often displayed a selfish and obsessive streak, prioritizing his own ambitions. Despite these character flaws, Newton remained an influential figure, shaping the minds and work of future scientists and thinkers whilst at the Royal Society. In 1705, Queen Anne bestowed a significant honour on Isaac Newton by knighting him, marking the first time a scientist had received such an honour, making him Sir Isaac Newton. Several years later, in 1712, Isaac Newton attempted to cement his legacy as the sole inventor of calculus. Remember, Gottfried Leibniz also claimed to have independently invented calculus. Newton and Leibniz had been fighting over this for 30 years. To finally settle this dispute, the Royal Society formed a committee in 1713 to investigate the matter. They concluded that Newton had developed the key concepts of calculus before Leibniz. However, there was a catch. Newton himself had written the committee's official report. Unsurprisingly, Leibniz rejected their decision, insisting that his work on calculus was original. The feud over calculus between Newton and Leibniz persisted for the rest of their lives, with neither man yielding. Today, it's widely accepted that both men independently contributed significantly to the development of calculus, each bringing unique ideas to this essential field of mathematics. Isaac Newton never married, and there are no records of him having any children. Some historians suggest he may even have remained celibate throughout his entire life. Known for his deep introversion and secretive nature, much of Newton's private life remains unknown. But his obsessive focus on work and solitary tendencies just might explain why he didn't follow the traditional path of marriage and family life. In 1726, at the age of 83, Isaac Newton shared a story that will become a legendary tale in scientific history. During a dinner with a Royal Society colleague, he reminisced about his youth at his family farm. He described a day when, sitting under an apple tree, he saw an apple fall to the ground. This simple observation sparked a profound realization about gravity, eventually leading to his revolutionary theories that transformed our understanding of the physical world. Over time, this story was retold by others and became slightly more dramatic. It evolved into the well-known version where the apple is said to have hit Newton on the head, though Newton himself only mentioned it falling nearby. On the 20th of March, 1727, at the age of 84, Isaac Newton died. It's said he passed away from natural causes, and reports suggest that he had been experiencing severe digestive problems leading up to his death. His autopsy apparently revealed mercury in his hair, which could have been a result of his alchemical experiments, and some speculate just might have been the cause of his death. Isaac Newton's life was a journey of extraordinary intellectual triumphs intertwined with complex personal struggles. He became one of history's greatest scientists from humble beginnings. his groundbreaking work in physics and mathematics, especially his laws of motion and gravity, fundamentally altered our understanding of the world. His development of calculus was a monumental achievement in mathematics. Newton's tenure at the Royal Mint and his role in reforming the British currency showcased his versatility and commitment to public service. His time as the President of the Royal Society, while marked by power struggles and conflict, further cemented his influence in the history of science. Yet this genius also had a deeply private and complex side. His experimentation with alchemy, his radical religious views, and his occasional descent into emotional turmoil paint the picture of a man driven as much by his inner demons as by his quest for truth and knowledge. Isaac Newton's legacy is of brilliant scientific innovation and human fragility. He never married or had children, and his later years were as much about shaping his own legend as contributing new ideas. When he passed away in 1727, he left behind a legacy that continues to shape science and our world. Isaac Newton's story is not just one of a brilliant scientist, but a reminder that being a genius often comes at a cost. His passion, ingenuity, and flaws all intertwined to help uncover the truth of our universe and to propel humanity into the scientific era. And that is how Isaac Newton changed the world. Thank you so much for watching. I genuinely appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. These videos take a long time to create, so if you enjoyed it, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks.